Welcome back. President Trump vowing to impose a 100% tariff on pharmaceutical companies unless the company agrees to build a manufacturing plant here in the United States. The threatened tariff said to go into effect on October 1st. John Flavin, Portal Innovations founder and CEO, joins us now. Investor in early-stage biotech companies. John, how does this affect your world?
Well, I mean, if you step back, before a drug becomes a drug, it starts in a lab, usually at a research university, and then it spins out into a company. And that company develops the drug over many years and invests a lot of capital to bring that breakthrough product to patients. Over the course of doing that, those companies are running clinical studies, and they're also manufacturing the drug to the component so that they can be effective once they reach the U.S. market after FDA approval with a pricing strategy that's competitive and affordable by the U.S. healthcare system. So if you look at that as a backdrop, if you impose tariffs, then you are increasing, at the end of the day, the burden by the U.S. consumer and insurance companies that are footing the bill. And so along that pathway, not only is it going to be more expensive to make the product once it's approved by the FDA, but along the way, these young startups, 90% of them are relying on outside U.S. outsourced opportunities to be able to cost competitively bring their products through the clinical trial process. So those are the things that concern investors.
But after they get through the clinical trial process, can't then they make the decision, if it's successful, to manufacture in the U.S. so they don't have to pay the tariffs?
Absolutely no. So I think at the back end of this process, it's great to see onshoring of manufacturing. You look at great news, from Eli Lilly, even foreign manufacturers like Novartis and Roche are all making announcements that they're going to be investing, upwards of $20 billion to invest in new plants. Lilly just talked about launching a new plant in Houston, for example. That's all good news for the U.S. economy long term. I think the impact that I get concerned about is really the short term, changing supply lines in being able to bring a new drug to the market, and then even onshoring the final manufacture of the active pharmaceutical ingredient. The capacity doesn't exist right now, so it will at best create delays for bringing these products to patients in the U.S. That benefit from these breakthroughs.
We did hear from the EU today. The trade chief said that they expect U.S. commitments on pharmaceutical tariff caps to be respected. Does any of this collide with some of the statement frameworks we've already gotten?
I think that we're still learning some of the details with regards to the way the tariffs will roll out. Clearly, if you're building a plant in the U.S., you're going to have favorable treatment. That's for patented technologies. This does not appear to affect generic products, which was feared early on. But I think that once again, you're going to find trading partners, for example, EU, that may have some beneficial trading advantages. And many of those companies are already making commitments. AstraZeneca, Novartis, Sanofi, to make product in the United States by bigger investments in plants here on our soil.
Hey, John, when I talk to a couple of people sort of do what you do, they're more concerned not with tariffs, but with Vinay Prasad at the FDA, pointing to things like Replimune and the inability of that company to get its drug for those who suffer from melanoma approved, despite what was data that showed it could save lives. And a number of other drugs they're sort of concerned about, wondering whether it's worth putting money in when this does not appear to be an agency that is at least as willing as had previously been the case to approve certain therapies. Do you share that concern?
Look, U.S. innovation is thriving. Science is having profound impacts. The things that are bubbling up in the labs right now and recent drug approvals, looking at some of these rare diseases being treated using CRISPR and cell therapy. There's no question those innovations are going to continue to transform and address unmet patient needs in the marketplace here in the United States. I think that's the factor that we have to keep our eye on. It's not just the tariffs that are causing concern, because, again, one could argue there's a lot of favorability to that. During COVID, we learned that our national security was at risk because we found out that pharma was outsourcing a lot of its early stage and supply lines to make the raw ingredients to be able to make products. And, that it's good for us to have U.S. manufacturing as it comes to pharmaceutical products. So that's a good thing. But when you put that together with some of the other confusing factors, threats to NIH funding, some mixed messages around the FDA process. On the one hand, we're hearing encouraging news by Dr. Macri looking to accelerate and make easier the drug approval process. That's very favorable to investors and to patients. But on the other, some confounding, kind of situations, as you pointed out, with regards to, what is the message and how do people, predict where to place the investment dollars.
Okay, well, we'll see where this one goes, John. Thank you for joining us to talk about your first impressions. John Flavin from Portal Innovations, where he invests in biotechs. You mentioned Europe. I do wonder also if Japan and Korea are shielded by this as well because of the deal that they made, those trade deals, where, theoretically the tariffs don't go higher.